Something that I promised we'd do more of, and I'm happy to do it with a guy I've known for a long time. But it's another indie wrestler showcase, a name that no matter where you are in Canada, you may actually have a chance to see in the next little while here. But Cameron Tom's better known as Ikaze. How are you, friend?
Thank you very much for having me, Mike. It's been a long time, and I appreciate the time you're taking here right now, man.
Well, buddy, we go back to, how old did we figure out you were when you started training?
Well, I heard my first match is 17. Yeah. I started training at 19, technically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, wait a minute. That sounds a little backwards here.
Yes, it is.
So how did the first match happen without any training?
So I started out in the backyard with CMF Wrestling, Crazy Mofo Wrestling, and Medicine Hat. It's no joke, actually. We had like 173 people. We had some pretty big crowds. But, needed to get properly trained. But I lied about my age. I was only 17, had to be 18 to start wrestling. And said I was trained. And, I ended up having a match and a battle royal. So I had 2 matches before I even graduated or had my high school diploma.
So let me ask you then, as a guy who now has been doing this for some time, and I mean, we've heard stories of guys that started out in backyard and had some success, and then there's others that say, absolutely not. Where do you sit on the whole thing of I mean, backyard wrestling is not really as big as it used to be anymore, but for those people that come in and, well, frankly, do what you did and lie about being trained.
Right.
I mean, recommend, don't recommend?
No, I don't recommend it at all. I was very lucky I didn't get the living tar beat out of me or had a leg broken or something like that. Because, police in the business, that would have happened for sure. So I was very lucky. But I would say get trained and go to a proper school, a trainer that's been around for at least 20 years or longer and has been there, done that.
Yeah. So let's talk about your training then, kind of a Canadian icon, especially we got a bunch of people listening to McGuire on Wrestling in Winnipeg, and nice. A name is very familiar to Winnipeggers out there for sure. Chi Cruz played a big part in your training.
100%. I was in the right place at the right time in Edmonton. I lived with Cheech for the spring, summer, and the fall in Edmonton, and man, he was just, there's no other job description this guy could do. When he walked into a room and you looked at Cheech, like, professional wrestler was the first thing that came to mind. And he's master of psychology, storytelling, building up to the main event, knowing your role on the card, a lot of lost art things that just aren't taught anymore. I was very lucky to learn from a guy that just always questioning, why is this happening? Why are you doing that? Yeah. What is the reasoning behind this? Very important stuff.
It's funny, if you go to any show in Winnipeg, especially when AEW was there the last couple times, you would see signs saying, this is Chi Cruz country.
Wow, I did not know that. That's amazing. Well, even in Edge's Hall of Fame speech, in the unedited version, Edge puts over Chi Cruz.
Absolutely, yeah. No, definitely a well-known name to Canadian wrestlers, to wrestling fans, especially in the prairies in central Canada. But, okay, so let's go back to you breaking in. And, again, this is something, so how many years ago would that have been?
So that would have been 2005, technically, when I started the training.
So 19 years ago then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So opportunities start to come, I guess, and you start getting some work out there. You're working mostly in Edmonton, right?
Yeah, Edmonton predominantly. I did my very first tour, very first time on the road ever with Tony Condello's Northern Death Tour, the Hell Tour. Hell of a way to break in the first time on the road, but I absolutely loved it. It was amazing. Tony Condello is a legend. I got to learn from him and just see him promoting and stuff. It was a great time. That's where I got my start, basically.
I want to ask you a question that I don't think I've ever asked any wrestler. What was your first payout? Do you remember how much it was?
Well, I remember step by step. So it starts at nothing. I was still paying off my training. Then the first real payoff, I think, was maybe no more than $20, $25.
Yeah.
And you kind of just move your way up. I always thought the pay scale went from like nothing to 25 to 50 to 75, then eventually 100. And then after that, it's all about just like what you've done and your reputation, your resume after that point. But
we're at the end of a show here, so guys are coming up and saying their goodbye handshakes. But at the same time, it was a great night here in Lethbridge. I mean, now you've been doing this for some time, like you said, 19 years. In that time, there's been some interesting journeys you've taken. I didn't even know this until you told me you had done it, but you actually went over to the UK for a while.
100%.
And so, without delving too much into your personal life, but I mean, what spawned that decision to go over there and try wrestling and training there?
Okay, so in 2014 is when I kind of lost my mind and stopped wrestling for 7 long years. And leading into that, I was already figured in to go out to the UK. A wrestler out here actually hooked me up with it to go work for Brian Dixon at All Star Wrestling.
Okay.
And Frank Cullen was it. Frank Cullen took a really nice liking to me. and he put me over to Brian Dixon in All-Star Wrestling. So I was lined up to go out there in 2014 and work the holiday camp circuit. But then I gave up on myself, man, and was out of the business for 7 long years. So when I finally decided to get back in, I was like, screw this. I'm just going to pick up right where I left off. Like, that's what I was supposed to do next. So that's what I'm doing. And yeah, man, I had no ring to train in. I just hopped on a plane, headed out there, went in cold as hell, and, found a school in London for a bit. And then I found a better school in the South, All-Star Wrestling South. I can't put them over enough. Joel Redmond's the head trainer. He was the first NXT tag champion with Adrian Naval. But I spent 7 months out there, banged out 70 matches, and got myself over.
If you're looking up Kamikaze, I'm going to spell the name for you in case you haven't seen it in the description.
There's all kinds of different spellings of it.
Well, it's C-A-M,
yes,
and then 2 exclamation
yes,
points, K-A-Z-E.
Yeah, and sometimes there's an I in there, I-K-A-Z-E. It all depends.
But nevertheless, if you see this guy, look for a guy with red and green hair, kind of an LOD meets punk rock sort of thing.
Oh yeah, always different, always changing.
And at the same time, when I last saw you before you did this exodus off to England and everything, it was a case where you were the high flyer. You were the guy that we did a show in Saskatchewan. I remember we were in a building and you climbed up the pillars, the I-beams of this place, and did a reverse moonsault off of the ceiling, basically. But the funny thing is now, and you and I chat about this every once in a while, you've really come to embrace a lot of the old school mentality.
Oh, 100%.
And a lot more of the ground and pound and really developing your psychology. So was it an easy adjustment for you to go from being the high spot guy to really getting down and dirty?
Well, you know what? I think that was always a thing. No, I mean, because I started with Cheech and I learned with so many legends. I was so lucky. Like, I think that was always a label guys would throw at me to kind of discredit me, call me a spot monkey and stuff like that. But at the end of the day,
I'm not calling you a spot monkey.
No. But I mean,
you were a high spot guy. I mean, everybody was always going to say, "What was Cam going to do next?"
Yeah, and I still think I keep them guessing like that. But I think that was more like I always had a reason behind everything I did. There was never I never was indie-rific, and I have enough footage to back all that up. But no, I think that was always just something people would discredit me, spot monkey, or ceiling's too low, the ropes are loose. It's like, I don't care. Like, I'm so adaptable. I don't care what I'm working with. I'm going to make it work, and I'm going to do, listen to the room and feel the room, and, it's just, I'm adaptable. I can do whatever. It doesn't matter.
Well, that's why I bring it up. Again, it's not to accuse you.
No.
It's the exact opposite. It's more like sometimes the psychology's in there, but you're also in indie wrestling. You have to be unique. You have to stand out.
100%.
I mean, you've got the crazy colored hair, the contact lenses, the crazy promos and all that stuff. And I mean, people know when Kamikaze's coming, it's going to be a different act,
100%.
The decision for you to go, okay, I need to stay unique, but I also need to stick to fundamentals here.
100%.
Is that an easy conversation you have with yourself, or is that something you're kind of convincing yourself over time?
No, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you live and learn, of course, but I think just over time you get older and wiser. That's what it is. But that's always been in my brain. I mean, when you're younger, inspire, you just have more balls and you want to try things out. But now it's more, Savio Vega really put this over, just sticking to a good routine that you can do with your eyes closed, in any situation. And I think I've, over the years, figured that out now and put, Rome wasn't built in a day like Cheech told me, and it did take time to piece everything together. But now I feel like I'm in a really good groove right now of just piecing things together, 100%.
That's funny. You were just on the road with CWE and Savio Vega, like you mentioned.
Yes.
Shane Douglas also in there in that
Ultimo
mix. Ultimo Dragon, all these legends. And it's funny, people will go, oh, these old WWE and New Japan, ECW guys and everything. But it's funny because I've talked to most of them too, and it's amazing how sometimes the simplest drop of information they can give you is completely mind-blowing. Right?
It is, man. Shane Douglas, I can't put over enough. It was just your old favorite, and I don't mean this is disrespectful, he is up in age, but your favorite grandpa just in the locker room, just spitting out all these cool stories and all these amazing knowledge just coming at you. He was amazing, man. We soaked up so much from Shane Douglas. Everyone we work with, but Shane really sticks out as currently one of the guys that just is a plethora of information, man.
We had him on the show. If you're listening now, go back and listen to the interview I had with Shane Douglas, and you'll hear, which is funny because a lot of people that heard that interview were like, that's Shane Douglas, because you always get the picture of the rebellious, brash, screw everybody.
He's just a kindly man now.
He's hey, what's up, Shane?
Oh man, I can't put him over enough. He was just your favorite uncle, your favorite grandpa in the locker room, man. He was awesome, so awesome. I hope we get to tour with him again.
So how old are you now?
I am 38.
Really?
Yeah, I just turned 38.
You don't look 38, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's all the non-GMO organic food and stretching and mind over matter, guys. It's all in your head. Age is just a number.
I will give tons of credit to stretching. Stretching
Yes,
has saved my butt, literally.
So important. I think it's very foolish being in this business that guys don't stretch enough. Like what we're doing to our bodies, you should be stretching all the time.
So you're 38 years old.
Yes, sir.
What is the goal for you in wrestling? I mean, you are wrestling full time now. You're all over the country.
Yes, sir.
You're going all sorts of places. What is the goal for you at 38 to do as a wrestler?
I mean, there's somewhere out there in the wrestling world for me, somewhere out there. I don't know if it's a trainer, as a talent, but somewhere out there is a spot for me out there. I know that in my heart, and I'm just picking up where I left off after I left 7 years. I was full-time then. I'm back full-time now, and I'm back with a vengeance. But there's somewhere out there, somewhere worldwide for Kamikaze. I have no doubt in my mind. It's just about knocking on those doors and keep making an impression.
Last question. When it's not wrestling, what is it for Cam?
Man, you know what? I was in home care during my time away in the business. And it's part of the reason I got back in. I was looking after a gentleman, Jerry Berg, may he rest in peace. I looked after him for 3 years. He had MS. He couldn't walk. And I just cared for him every day. And I found that very fulfilling to me. Home care might be like a little backup. Also, at the end of the day, I think in my back pocket would be to open up a school when things are all done for me. I'm not done yet. I still got something left in the basement, as Rocky Balboa would say. But I think a wrestling school, too, would be a wise decision. Open something up, Kazi Gym and Medicine Hat.
Okay.
Train guys the right way.
But when it's not wrestling?
Not wrestling, I'd say home care for sure. Home care. Just helping out, giving back.
What about your life in general? Like when you're not doing wrestling stuff, what are you doing?
I'm training. I'm pampering myself. Massages, physiotherapy, working out, stretching, eating, studying wrestling. That's my life, basically. A lot of bike rides. I love being outside, riding my bike, getting sunshine. The beautiful Medicine Hat sun, just getting a good tan in the summertime. Yeah, man. Visiting friends and family. Making up for lost time for being gone for so long.
That's it. Thanks, Cam.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.